I think the word you used would be forthright. I think that, I'm sure they would have some issue with the honesty thing, but I think you're correct.
Yeah. So when the industry is uniformly providing accurate and consistent information, and we are working on rating systems in California, they're at their infancy, but building rating systems.
And Thomas, again, I have three thoughts. First, as a former HUD employee, there is a national standard for our expectations of housing and community development. That housing and communities ought to be decent, safe, sanitary, and affordable. That's in federal legislation. Second part of that thought is that when someone breaches a duty of care, they are not without recourse all the time. Folks that are in this level of don't know or willful ignorance, more likely, quite frankly, we have a duty on the part of government to help people, as Janelle suggests, to no longer be unaware, at least. They can be unengaged, but that they would not be able to say, I don't know. That it's there, and perhaps the burden should not be on the homeowner to supply this information, but perhaps on some other source. Third thought is from the late Jim Owen from California, an engineer who told me a long time ago at one of these conferences, at one of these workshops, excuse me, that the new engineering discipline of forensic hydrology and hydraulics will change the world, will change floodplain management. There is also forensic fire science, forensic earthquake science that can answer the question that Jimmy Cagney asked in the movie Mr. Roberts. Who did it? I want to know who did it. They can answer that question, and that leads back to litigation. I don't recommend litigation, but we need to further get the professions up in the world and keep in mind that the fundamental duty of an engineer and an architect, according to their profession, is public safety. And when they breach that duty, we rumble back up to the other things that can happen, that some other engineer can apply forensic science to determine who did stuff. And we need to rethink that through. And following up on the last workshop that we just had in this room, where it was suggested very strongly that we think about holding a builder liable, there's a real problem with that, because usually once a builder completes a project, they terminate the corporation because that business.
I think we're 1 minute away here.
Don't
we get 15 minutes? Oh, we have 15 minutes, pardon me, Ken.
Hi, Jonathan Gold. I'm from New Zealand, Ministry of Civil Defence and Emergency Management. I just wanted to comment on Ed's point and about this requirement of homeowners to fill in this. In New Zealand, we have what's called a land information memoranda, which councils attach to the title of property of a house. This is required to give all the hazard information that the council knows about that property that is not otherwise attached to a statutory plan. In other words, is easily searchable by the homeowner these days online. And that gives all the sorts of information that you were saying about all the hazards that are associated with that house. It does, and also all the building consents that have been made to that property in terms of any structural changes. What it doesn't go down to, of course, won't go back to little things like perhaps tying back a water cylinder or perhaps tying in the foundations and things like that. But it does give a lot of the hazard information.
Yeah.
Do you think that's leading to any kind of market effects in terms of the prices of homes or buying behavior? What's your sense of whether that is really biting?
There have been analyses done in New Zealand on whether or not the impacts of putting particularly lines on properties and taking into properties has an effect. There's actually no effect. The only thing that does have an effect is actually when that event happens. So if you have a flood event go through that house, or you have the Canterbury earthquake hit your property, that will affect the value of the property.
Yes, if I could just comment on that. Yes, what tends to happen is that when a new hazard line is put on a map, the homeowners there all start to make a lot of fuss thinking, oh, it's going to affect my property values. And they've even done that to the point that in some cases they've forced the council to actually have a rethink about that. It does make the councils then a bit, say, risk adverse. Of course, any science information about hazards is contestable. You can always find an expert who will argue either side of the case in the courts, and they are, of course, very reluctant to go down the costs of fighting these things in the courts.
I'm going to make just a clarification so that the things that you cannot say I don't know on are that you're in a fault zone, that you're in an area that's identified publicly as liquefaction or landslide. So there are some public mapping things that you cannot. It's the individual vulnerability. So that's the hazard side. It's the vulnerability or the exposure side that you can just say, look, I'm just a regular homeowner, I don't know.
Just one point, I mean, this is a classic illustration. We can learn a heck of a lot by people that are doing things similar and better. Some of the best communications programs I've seen, and forgive me, it's either in New Zealand or Queensland, Australia, but the communications methodology that comes from the government is humorous, it works, and it's got massive feedback. And this is where you get the people to give you information. I almost permission marketing this as a problem, again, on a personalised basis. And it's either Queensland or New Zealand, some of the programs I've seen. I was really impressed. So.
Okay, I want to add a few words about that. So you mentioned two things I really love. Right at this stage of engagement, personalization, intention, I'll finish writing what I was starting to write there for a moment. That is to use humor. We need to get people into a different emotional frame to prepare them for the messages about risk and feasible actions they can take. If you reduce the fear, not raise it, they're going to be more willing to listen. Fear is a shutting down, disempowering emotion, and humor from an odd angle is especially great because it gets you out of that, but I can't, but should I kind of cognitive mode. The visuals that you were seeing in the movie, that kind of stuff is really powerful because it comes to you from multiple senses. It allows your brain that should I, shouldn't I calculation, which we want that up here. We don't really want that so much down here. That's kind of interesting, right? But it gives you another sensorial way into people's perceptions. And then you want to evoke curiosity, okay? You want to evoke a search for information, a turning outward, a conversation. You don't want to say, I'm the only one with the information, hire me and I'll tell you what it is, because that's just so limiting. You want to get people curious. So advertisers are geniuses at this, right? Hinting at the benefits that pursuing the product a little further could give. I want to be like the person. How can I get to be like that? So curiosity is your friend.
So is this when I describe my commercial?
Sure.
Which I will tell you our marketing company didn't pick up, by the way. But the idea is people ask me, who are your competitors? And we joke about granite countertops. And that if you're going to spend money on your house, you're going to spend something that you use, that you see, that you can show off to your friends. And so there are, two women standing out in front of their house after an earthquake. One house is perfectly fine, and the family standing out in front. The other one is off of the foundation. And the woman turns to the one with the damaged house and says, "Oh, no, not the granite." Because she's standing in front of the house with her granite countertop in her hand. And it goes back to the notion of that you're at a cocktail party and somebody says, "Oh, my house is an A, my house is a B," and that means something, meaning that there's a rating system, or you go to sell it, intellectual curiosity, and you see this on the form as the buyer, and you say, "That's not acceptable. How do I get the answer to that?"
Yeah.
And that's the
Hey, realtor, tell me more.
Tell me
And
more.
tell me why you're equipped to answer that question for me. Who among my neighbors has taken action? Curiosity, conversation, questioning.
Right.
That's your friend.
So to that effect, we did a little matchmaking. FEMA has a training program for home inspectors, the people that you typically hire when you buy a house, you want to get some information. They're giving you information on the roof all the way down to the foundation. So we put FEMA together with the organizations that train homeowners, home inspectors in the state, so that they will understand how to give this seismic information to homeowners. And so we're trying to fill in some of the gaps, and hopefully we'll start to make some inroads there.
Okay, can we circle back to the audience again? Let's troubleshoot a little. Up, down, the motivational ladder to your superiors, to your funders, to your elected officials. Let's find another example of a challenge that someone is facing in their mitigation, advocacy, or implementation work that we can collectively dig our teeth into for a little bit. I think we've got 10 minutes or so. What do you think? Good use?
This is, and again, I'd like to not talk about a challenge that we have, but a challenge that we used to have. And I want to key off with what Janelle talked about in terms of, and what you talked about in terms of field ROIs and field fear is not what the cell concept of safe rooms is being sold in Oklahoma, now Texas, and other places, is hope. It is, you don't have to worry about loss of life in your home, because this is exactly precisely what you can do. And it is a subliminal message from government, from business and industry, from the local weather forecaster, from lenders, all saying the same thing in different ways. And it is producing dramatic results in the competition between a granite countertop and a safe room. And I think if we think of that way, as Dennis Maloney says, we need to sell this stuff the way Coca-Cola sells stuff, the way Suzuki sells stuff. Suzuki motorcycles, solo on Suzuki and winding up two-way. That's why I bought my Suzuki. I mean, that's that kind of stuff where you're hoping for a better outcome is what we need to do with our specific messages delivered from multiple different sources, and we need to figure out how to do that.
Janelle, can you write up what I think is an effective CEA tagline, that California rocks? Let's have a little fun with it. And rock, we all want to rock out. It's a positive message.
Come on, image. Give us a rock.
Oh, rock.
Draw one.
No.
Put a face on it.
She's a good artist. Okay, challenge Janelle some more. We need to get her drawing. Let's hear some challenges. Or solutions.
Well, actually, this gets a little bit back to the discussion of humor, but one of the challenges we had was to try to get the mayor's office to support Luann Johnson's efforts to organize neighborhoods, which we had about 60,000 when I left of people that were actually enrolled and tested and certified. And so I got some of his key staff to come out to one of her presentations. She got permission from the homeowner, and she's on a block talking to 25 or 30 people. And I came back and said, geez, I didn't want to say anything there, but Jim, she's got to dress more professionally. She's wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt. And I said, do you not realize she's talking about death and destruction, and she's moderating that with a soft image? And he goes, gee, that's almost political. Yeah. It's also community organizing, it's also common sense. And so, and another challenge that we had was how do we get the people on the coast of Washington State to begin to think about the idea of vertical evacuation for a tsunami. And in that case, there was no humor involved, and we just went out and talked to them. But we also found out what they could not do for themselves. They could not do the engineering studies they needed. They could be given 2 or 3 options of structures or berms they could build, but they couldn't do the very becoming. You should swing that over there to make sure you get this, so you know why people are laughing. I'm not that funny.
Okay.
In any case, what we did was we provided the engineering support and some of the other technical support through FEMA, through our Department of Natural Resources, from Emergency Management. The Guard did some things to help. Nothing that expensive, In the end, the voters had to vote to approve the structure and pay for a good chunk of it. But the idea was, then they can do their exercise with our oversight, because we'd have to come in and help anyway. And it was theirs and they owned it. And it's happened in 2 or 3 places along our coast. It isn't happening anywhere near as fast as it needs to, but it stands as kind of a symbol of going to folks and talking to them, not lecturing them, but chatting with them and saying, look, we're going to come either way, but we'd sure like to come and find all of you here alive and at least safe. If you're hungry or something, we can deal with that. And it really made a difference. And the other thing that made a difference was one guy stood up in an audience in Port Angeles, yelled at my young staffer who was up there the night of the tsunami, and he said to her, when do you think we're ever going to have to deal with it? She says, it could be tonight. Meeting ends, she drives away, not happy with it, turns on her radio, oh my gosh. And then we're up for probably 12, 14 hours trying to figure out what we had to do, but we had science to support us. We knew we didn't have to evacuate. Next time she went back there, the guy was sitting in the front row. So, and Port Angeles went ahead. And so there are a number of things that can happen. Seizing the moment helps a little bit. But I do think just going out, as was said before by my friend with the red nose, yeah, put it back on, that talking to people and saying, what do you want to do? What kind of options, what can you not do that we can help you with, made all the difference.
I think terrific comments. Would you like to get up and present your work in a future session? Because I think you could be up here. Jamil, do you want to talk a little bit about talking to people and how CEA is doing that, to go out and be approachable and engage the very people that they're trying to motivate, pay attention to their needs, how they do things now, and how you can help them do what they already want to do.
Right. So I have
Solve problems.
two hats that I wear. One is when I'm invited to speak, to like a neighborhood or a community, the Office of Emergency Services, and they are not a community that we can be in with our incentive program in very soon. And then I'm giving just general information and I'm encouraging this retrofit. Obviously, when I come in with the hat where we're actually in their community handing out money, it's a little bit different in that I'm bringing them one of the major solutions, which is I'm bringing financing into their community. The message is the same, that this is fixable. It's about $5,000. It takes about 2 days. The drawings that we have can be done with a contractor, do-it-yourself, or without an engineer. So the idea is to try and speak in very, very plain terms, to describe that there is something that they can do. There's hope. Peace of mind, that we're talking about really significant damage, the kind of damage that particularly in a state where you have 90% uninsured, is not going to come out of your savings account. This is, the maximum you can get from SBA is $200,000. When we're talking about the real estate prices in California for some communities, $5,000 is what we're talking about for this tremendous peace of mind. And so, and of course, with Cheryl's incredible advice, and a lot of it free, I take advantage as any client would anytime I can. I'm trying to incorporate some of the messages that include the why. Not just the what and the how, but the why.
Yeah. Where do you try and deliver these messages? What are the modes of delivery, and what is the decision that those people are facing at that time? So let's complete the triangle between the message, the moment.
So what Sherry is the managing director of the program. I'm the executive director, and we've learned a lot in terms of that when we go to a community, we try to go to the community. We meet with the mayor's office, the city council if need be. We meet with the Office of Emergency Services, with the building department. We try and find neighborhood councils that we can meet with. For one thing, when we walk in, people think this is a scam. They think, what do you mean you're giving money away? And so to have this viability and legitimacy that comes from people that they know and respect and trust is really, really important. We use the networks like you talked about. Berkeley has this amazing parents email where you can ask anything on it. We use those kinds of mail servers because they come from trusted people in their community. So a little bit of direct mail, but along with that kind of just piques their interest. We have to go in and establish ourselves with the community so that our program becomes part of the community, part of the community's solution and actions towards resiliency.
When we did the survey of Napa homeowners, 35,000 door hangers, and we viewed the recruitment to the survey as an opportunity to talk to people about the fact that we care what damage they experienced. We care if they don't experience damage because we want to sell those, collect and utilize those success stories. People think, oh, I didn't experience any damage. No one wants to talk to me after the event. Well, actually, I really do. And once people participated and we collaborated with the city and some ethnic-focused, community-based organizations, that's the way to show that you're caring about the long-term involvement of your organization in their community, and that really means a lot. It also saves you, it economizes and leverages your efforts because those people are already engaged with the target audience for you, and you are bringing them in to being your advocates. You're bringing them in to be the credible source of information. So it kind of works out in layers, and that can be really effective.
Right.
And wearing humble clothing at a community meeting is actually a great idea. I wear a suit coat when I come to a more academic government setting, but wearing some work boots when you're talking to people about fixing up their houses, not in a cartoony character condescending way, but in a real, I'm here to meet you where you are way, is great. And when you find the great communicators in your organization or in the community, use them. Get them out in front, reward them, build their capacity to reach people, because that's kind of a natural talent that when you find it, you gotta get them out in front. Messages. Using a tool like a program logic model, which is your picture of how your organization is trying to put together all the pieces, all the resources you have within its constraints to choose high-value activities that are going to get you towards your goals. You can continually revisit that and refine that and plan your activities by using a model like this staircase of behavior change. For any of your goal ambitions, diagnose where your audience is at, and it's probably going to be 5%, 20%, 50% here. Choose the high value audience, develop messages that are really going to speak to where those people are right now in their own, the way they do things now, the pressures they face. So meet them there, devise those messages, and deliver it in a respectful way where the choice remains theirs. That is, I think, a good recipe for revisiting what we're doing and trying to magnify its impact. And we can do it with so many things we're trying to achieve in our professional lives, including influencing our bosses, elected officials, funders, the media you're working with, the people in the community that are facing a risk that they actually can do something about if we help them. Any other concluding thoughts?
So just, I'm up here, obviously, right? I'm at the top of the stairs. I'm up there, and I'm reaching down with my hand, and I'm asking people to trust me, to grab my hand, and to come up the stairs with me. And they need to know that they can trust me because I understand who they are, I understand their challenges, and I truly believe that we have put the best science into information so that when they've done this, that they're in a better place. And I'll tell you, the reason that I am doing what I'm doing is that I did hundreds of homes after the Northridge earthquake I looked at for an insurance company. And I'll tell you how that works is you're an engineer, right? But you go and you knock on the door, and the homeowner invites you into their home. And I would go back to the airport at night and I would say, this is what I learned today. I learned that earthquakes drop in on homeowners on the worst day possible. They drop in when a man has just put his home in an Alzheimer's home, when a woman has a scarf on her head and is going through chemotherapy, when a mom has just been divorced and is trying to figure out if she can stay in her home. And they're looking at me like, well, how'd the house do? Well, you know what, it didn't really matter so much about the house, but rather that the house is never the client. There's a family, there's a person, there's a story that is the client. And so knowing that viscerally and understanding that, I really am excited to be able to work with people like Cheryl, so that when I am standing there up on top of that and I'm putting my hand out, that I am doing so in the best possible way to get as many people in California to be as safe and resilient as possible. And we really thank you all for being here.
I'll be around if you have any questions. Enjoy the rest of the conference.